Dinosaurs have always held a very special place in my heart. As a kid, I grew up in a world of Jurassic Park mania. These ones, not those ones. As well as full animatronic dinosaurs in museums, and even dinosaur documentaries like Walking with Dinosaurs, which is, to this day, still one of the most realistic depictions of dinosaurs I've ever seen. Did you know in dinosaur times, grass didn't exist? This show taught me that, and I still remember it. I had dinosaur books, dinosaur stickers, and dinosaur games, but the games were never really quite what I was looking for. Don't get me wrong, Jurassic Park Operation Genesis on the PS2 was an absolute banger, and I forced my mum to drive miles to a Blockbuster outside of our area just to rent it. And there were of course games like Dino Crisis or Turok that definitely had an interesting dinosaur twist. But these games only ever let you make dinosaur theme parks or shoot dinosaur bad guys. But I didn't want to exist within the vicinity of a dinosaur. I wanted to be a dinosaur. And for many years, that was impossible. Until I discovered The Isle, a realistic PvP dinosaur survival game that ticks all the boxes of the dinosaur experience of my dreams. And you'll never play it. Hunt, grow, survive. This is the basic but enticing premise of The Isle. In the game, you find yourself on a large and varied map called Gateway, with a dinosaur of your choice, left to fend for yourself on the mean streets of a dinosaur-infested paradise. You'll need to manage your food, water, and stamina to survive, by using a combination of your wits, hearing, and smell to grow from a little baby loser into the giga-stacked dino killer of your dreams. But as you open your eyes for the first time and look around, you might ask yourself, how did my little raptor hands manage to build that? Joe Rogan will likely tell you it was ancient aliens, but it was actually something far worse: humans. The islands of the Isle are owned and managed by Apollo Engineering, a genetics organization whose sole purpose is to create genetic hybrids. Something, the island is filled with dinosaurs. If you've ever watched Jurassic Park 3, you understand the game. Now, you may have noticed earlier that I used the word islands, plural, and that's because this game actually has 2 maps, not 1. And to understand the true strengths and limitations of this game, you'll need to understand its drama. Gateway is the second map. The first map is Isla Spyro, an equally expansive realistic dinosaur playground that basically no one touches, and the development has been officially halted on. And part of you might think the decision to almost completely abandon a half-finished project to flippantly and impulsively start another one may be the most realistic Jurassic Park-inspired thing to have ever been done. But it may also serve as a distant red flag, a surface-level signal pointing to a potential sea of unplayable damage cracking within the foundations of an unfinished project, leading you to question whether you should play this game at all. And don't worry, we'll get to that. But when it comes to picking a game to play, you'll want to check out this video's sponsor, G2A.com. G2A.com is your one-stop shop for digital entertainment, offering a wide variety of products like software, video games, and gift cards for Amazon, Netflix, Tinder, and more. At G2A.com, you can find discounted prices on a variety of digital entertainment, all of which are delivered instantly, making it easier than ever to get your hands on the digital product of your deepest desires. There's a reason G2A.com stands for Gate to Adventure, as it opens the door to a world of digital entertainment opportunities. But in a modern world where you're spoiled for choice, it can sometimes be hard to pick the thing you actually want. Enter G2A.com's random key offer, where you can find discounted prices on a totally random key or a shot at a random game that fits within your desired theme. I think this is a really cool way to discover new games, play things you've never played before, and fight back against choice paralysis. Click my link in the description or the pinned comment to check out G2A.com and their new random keys offer. And why not sign up to their newsletter to keep up to date on future deals as well? Check out g2a.com using my link in the description or the pinned comment. Now, let's get back to the Isle. To play the Isle, you have to boot up the Isle, and so naturally, you go to your Steam library and click on the Isle and press play. What an idiot, man. Man, that's embarrassing. I wouldn't want to be you. The Isle is split into two distinct games, you idiot. The Isle and the developmental branch, Evrima. The Isle base game had development discontinued in 2019 because the spaghetti code was so nonsensical that it was actually easier to make the whole game again in Unreal Engine. And that might sound a bit insane, but when you realize that the Isle began as a passion project turned early access failed Kickstarter Steam release in 2015, and that the game was and still is headed up by a very controversial guy called Dondi, who allegedly banned critics, publicly mocked players and other developers, was toxic to his own dev team and, according to some, completely tanked the Dinosaur game he worked on previously called Primal Carnage, you start to understand how the code could have become so spaghetti. Some might argue that investing your time in a game so volatile that it might be literally discontinued at any moment may dissuade you from even playing to begin with. But I've managed to load up the Evrima branch and I'm ready to live my first Dinosaur life. Naturally, much like real life, you begin your life by choosing a server. Any die-hard The Isle player will tell you that the only way to play is on custom servers with very specific rules and players. And all you have to do is sit in a queue for hours. So I've joined one of the official servers. The Isle has three ways of playing the game: as a carnivore, a herbivore, or an omnivore. Obviously, I'm looking to relive my childhood and I'm not a loser, so I'll be playing carnivore, specifically for now, the Omniraptor. Again, because of Jurassic Park and also this specific scene from Walking with Dinosaurs. Man, I swear this looked way cooler when I was a kid. I'm not sure this thing holds up. A key part of any realistic dinosaur's life is designing the look of your dinosaur. Because let's not forget that in real life, they've recently ruined dinosaurs by adding feathers to them. But fortunately, in the Isle, that's not the reality they've gone for. I've spawned in as a little baby boy raptor. Look at me, I'm so cute. A quick sniff of the air reveals my compass and a set of mysterious symbols. And what do these symbols mean? And what do these things mean? And why has this shown up on my screen? And what are these? And where am I? It's at this point that you realize that the Isle is very hard. Intuitively hard. A kind of hard that makes you realize why you find It Takes Two so easy while your girlfriend doesn't even understand how to hold a controller. I've never played a game like this in my life, and everything on my screen right now is meaningless. And don't you worry, there's absolutely no tutorial at all. Nothing in the game that tells you what any of these things are, and if you go to the key bindings, the things the game says these buttons are for are not actually what they're for at all. But you know what? Being a brain-dead idiot at birth is pretty realistic. And while in real life I would turn to my parents, as a dinosaur orphan, you're on your own. The Isle is about survival, and survival requires food. And to find food, you have to smell it. And if you can't smell it, then you have to run until you can. And if your stamina bar runs out from running too much, then you have to sit down until it comes back. There are two things you can eat as a carnivore: other dinosaurs or certain AI meat options like pigs or deer. Take them to my lair. Your dietary requirements of choice can be found on this detailed menu. Certain foods have certain symbols. The perfect diet requires the filling up of these symbols. How do I know this? Because I'm already 2 full YouTube tutorials in at this point. But eating food and finding food are 2 very different things. Half hunger already. A food source lying dead on the ground has a smell, and if you smell long enough, you'll smell it. A live food has no smell, but water does have a smell, which is a bit weird. But sure, realism is on a spectrum, I guess. Rather realistically, my first lives end as many orphans' lives end, in starvation. Starvation led me to my grave so many times, I started to wonder if my game was bugged. Maybe my smell was broken. or food just doesn't load in for me for some reason. Man, I could go for some spaghetti code right now. Fortunately, after watching yet another tutorial, I realized what I was doing wrong.
Today we are having a go at creating a beginner's guide for the Isle of Remit.
That's not the voice I expected.
Guide will help you get started and hopefully survive as a carnivore. Life can be rough in the Isle and dying of starvation is very common, even after you've accomplished your first meal.
This is just how the game is. I've wandered countless jungles, stumbled through barren swamps, run until I can't run no more, and nothing. Like many players of the Isle, I considered quitting right here. Hours of nothing. What am I doing with my life? I get that survival is hard, but I wanted to be an Omniraptor and do cool Omniraptor things. This isn't the life I promised my childhood self. But from the shadows, in the pitch black night at the end of another painful day, I saw hope. A dark, dinosaur-shaped shadow, skin the texture of the night sky itself, glowing eyes staring back at my sheepish form. A fully grown Omniraptor towering above me. Death by a creature of such magnitude would be a welcome escape from the harsh realities of another starved life, I thought, as I made no attempt to run. Sikabliat, he said. I mean hi. Attacked, I was not. Instead, he came to me like Mufasa to Simba in The Lion King. Remember who you are, slorgs, he called from the clouds above. A towering example of what could be, a role model for slorgs of the future. Much like the real-life American dream, the promise of what could be inspired me to rise from the poverty of my orphaned beginnings and become who I was born to be. It turns out, much like in real life, in the dinosaur kingdom, success will often come at the expense of the failure of others. In a fresh life, I stumbled across the carcass of a recently lost soul. Obviously, I'm not turning my nose up at a free meal. But then, round the corner, another fresh meal. These were not the usual AI pigs I'd been failing to scratch. These were human players. It turns out the trick to fast food in a hostile environment is to hide at the base of a large rock and wait patiently for people to throw themselves to their death. As I ate my third free meal, I basked in the glory of my extravagant growth rate. 91%. That's crazy. But the universe of the Isle has an uncanny ability to humble you. Oh my god. A broken leg and severely wounded. I was moments away from being the fast food I'd spent the last 20 minutes gorging on. Fortunately for me, a dinosaur with the distinct coloration of a cow for some reason had met his own end in the exact same spot that I almost met mine. Misfortune for him had once again become my saving grace. If you've ever broken a bone before, you'll know that recovery is a lengthy process, with an optimistic outlook of 8 weeks. Fortunately, this game isn't quite that realistic. The healing process in the Isle is very simple. All you've got to do is sit down for like half an hour. Thankfully, with a nearby bush and a large meal to keep me topped up, I had plenty of relaxing minutes to scroll on my phone. And if you have plenty of time to scroll on your phone, why not check out the all-new Slorgs Patreon? We got extra content. We got Discord channels. We'll have up-and-coming Q&As and a bunch of other stuff. Thank you to the current Patreon gang. You help me make better and better content. If you want to support the channel and get more slorgs, click the Patreon link in the description and have a gander. Oh, perfect timing. I'm cured and I've grown. Look at me. Oh, I'm a teenager. Some would argue the scariest stage of any creature. The most power, the most ridiculous ideas, strangest views of the world. After a series of dark and twisted flashbacks to my own haunting teenage life, I wandered on to another fresh carcass, the body of an unfortunate herbivore who I mercilessly ate in front of his friends. That's the circle of life, I guess. I was starting to feel myself changing. I could sense I was more powerful than I once was. My distinct markings were beginning to flourish. I was starting to become who I was born to be. And I certainly had a more tenuous grasp on what you might call a moral code. Which leads us to the most interesting part of the Isle. Hidden beneath the masked exterior of a dinosaur survival game is a complex and game-changing social structure. As I wandered through the thick undergrowth, I reach a sudden clearing. And in that clearing scurries a young raptor. Naturally, in this hostile world, my initial response is to attack. But as I embarrassingly failed my incredibly jank leap mechanic, my next move was to try and make friends. Using the power of the in-game chat and positive dinosaur calls, myself and Tax were able to form an alliance. "You tried to jump me?" he asked. "Sorry about that," I replied. Was I sorry, or was I just sorry that I missed? Now usually I would avoid Tax at all costs, but in the game I was able to understand that this was in fact just the name of a fellow player and not the crushing realities of a modern Britain in a never-ending cost of living crisis. Earlier in the game, on a previous life, I'd attacked a fellow member of our species without provocation, not understanding that this was not quite the dog-eat-dog world I'd initially assumed it to be. And don't worry, that guy was fine. I was not. After joining his group, Tax led me to a beautiful, wide-open plain, which seemed to have an abundance of food and a local water supply. The pigs that had slain me multiple times before were a viable food source now. On these plains, Tax introduced me to his friends. And just like that, we were a raptor pack, a ragtag gang of loyal miscreants who lived in an idyllic paradise, who were hand-fed by a local trained Ceratosaurus for some reason, and who would chat happily to each other and work together to safely get drinks at the local river. But as I sat upon Raptor Rock, looking out across my kingdom, which, if it wasn't clear, is everything the light touches, as I am fed by fellow carnivore slaves and grow to my heart's content, I wonder, as indeed you may wonder, what happens now? And this is why you may likely never play this incredible realistic game. Hunt, grow, survive. This is how we started this video, and this is how it ends. I have hunted, grown, survived. There is nothing left. There is a nesting stage which includes laying and protecting eggs, but beyond that, your only job now is to exist at the top of the food chain. To peruse your kingdom and kill as you please. That pig that was once a challenging hunt, at some stages of your life a death sentence, is now a light snack you cut down for fun, just to fill the void of an empty life. What is perhaps the most realistic part of the entire game, once you've reached the top, you're faced with the dark reality of an opulent existence filled with unparalleled freedom and endless possibility. And while as a rich human philanthropist at the top of our food chain, you may well start an elaborate expedition to Mars or buy an entire social media company, but as an omniraptor, you are left vacuous. You could of course commit to a new parentless life, join a new species, relive the challenge of a fresh hatchling in a harsh world. But what you might start to realize is that survival isn't as hard when you know what it takes to survive. The game, much like the game of life, is rigged, and when you know the rules, it starts to become a whole lot easier. As a kid, I was often asked what animal I would be. My answer was often crocodile. I chose this for their dominant existence. Having walked the earth for 200 million years by some estimates, they must be doing something right. But it turns out that to be a human locked in the body of an animal is a punishment, not a release. For as a crocodile, with the mind of a man, I am plagued with the ever-present weight of ambition, a striving to be better, to do more, to find purpose. What is my purpose? You eat fish. Why do I eat fish? So I can live long enough to eat more fish. I swim the lengths of Gateway's beautiful twisting jungle rivers, bask in the morning sun, eat defenseless fish and drowning goats. To what end? To grow to an immense size and hunt down other dinosaurs for sport? But why? There is of course the tantalising prospect of the human element of the game, a grayed out box on the spawn screen suggesting a human faction may one day be playable, which would actually bring the game back to its pre-Steam days. But based on the history of the game's development, I couldn't possibly tell you if or when those grey boxes will ever become ungrey. The fate of the Isle rests in the same unpredictable hands of the man that has always dictated its fate, the mysterious Dondi, who more recently enraged the community by suggesting the camera angles would be changed to add realism and remove the ability to see your dinosaur at all. Progress in the right direction is perhaps a long way off. Despite this, The Isle is a great game. Its commitment to punishing realistic features like a stamina bar that requires resting to replenish, and a social system where you actually make noises when you talk, make for an experience where you start to truly feel like a dinosaur. Something that my childhood self would have committed a lifetime to. But this realism comes at a cost. And that is the crushing revelation that an animal's life is devoid of the one thing that makes people human. The one thing that brings you pleasure and gets you out of bed in the morning. Purpose. And without purpose, as an omniraptor who's now lived 1,000 lifetimes, I dare to say that while this game may be sensational, you'll never play it.